Hello and welcome to Ranked Up. My name is Noah, and here's a list of 10 legendary indie games that you must play first. So it's hard to believe a new year is here. 2025 was such an incredible year for indie games, and I think 2026 will definitely carry that torch forward. But I'm not here to talk about these new indie games coming this year. What we're talking about are those must-play indie games from the previous years, those games that you must play first before trying what this year has to offer. So without further ado, let's dive in. Let's start off this list with Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. The Ori games put you in control of a forest creature born from a spirit tree, and your mission is to save the world of Nebel from ruin. It might not be a particularly original plot, but the world that the developers at Moon Studios has built is a true recreation of a fairy tale from an old storybook. The magical 2D landscapes of Nibble are one, a potion of beauty in its serenity. It may be wistful and ghostly, but for your very first goal of traversing paths between the starting village and that great tree of life, you're so often stopped in your tracks simply to awe or take in the myriad of animated creatures and flora that make up its world. Of course, there is a game to be played here, and aside from those inspired and rousing soundtracks and the wonderful storybook-style cut scenes, the best defining feature of these games is the freedom of creative movement. Aside from the obvious running and jumping, Ori can collect energy spheres and hack through tunnels, maybe actually expanding the world by creating new projectiles to shoot and the like. While there is a set route between each objective of this 2D map, the methods of traversing the distance encourage wholly different approaches to navigation each time, resulting in play that encourages imaginative offensiveness, creative thinking, and an ultimately free will approach to getting from point A to B. If you haven't played it yet, you definitely should try this now. Up next, it's Bastion. This is a very simple isometric action game driven by intriguing narration. Bastion puts players in control of the Kid, an unnamed hero who awakens to a world sundered by a vague calamity. The Kid's ultimate goal is to gather as many trinkets on his journey to regroup with fellow villagers to counter this calamity and bring a sense of hope to restoring the world. Of course, it's not that simple, but playing Bastion is knowing very little from your starting point. The game is packed full of impressive 2D artwork. Everywhere you go, a narrator describes your journey by what you do, almost like a storybook presenting itself in reverse. The more distance you cover, the more of the world builds itself in front of you, and the more of the story reveals itself to the player. Bastion looks and plays like a simple click-them-to-death Diablo game, which essentially is that. With a few layers of defensive dodges and counters, you can build your own powerful character build. Even with the best upgrades, if you're not fast enough, the enemies can bring you down. As you play and learn more about its troubled world, the game solidifies itself as something more inventive than its face value appears. It's a tough, short, and beautifully crafted action game that tells us an inspired storybook tale with a tragic twist. Next up, one of my personal favourite, we have Spiritfarer. So Spiritfarer is a game about dying. While that might be a very grim opening statement for what is a truly beautiful game, the context is a lot less severe than what that means literally. The goal is to run a ship to ferry lost souls to their final resting place in the afterlife. Yet the game isn't about death. It's about coming to peace with the concept. This game is a celebration of life. Taking control of Stella, the new head of a Spiritfarer, it's your quest to explore the afterlife and build a small society on your ship, finding lost souls in the cute form of animals, forging bonds and helping them move forward with their afterlife in the coziest way possible. You'll probably find that you'll spend much of your playthrough of Spiritfarer simply standing idle or randomly exploring to fulfill the goals of your fellow neighbours or enjoying the rousing yet wistful soundtrack. It's a wonderful game whose flow of play is determined by the player and the rewards come at a constant drip. It's visually gorgeous with an array of animated characters and lush backgrounds that help fully immerse the wrapped-in nostalgia atmosphere. It's soft, it's sincere. It's exactly the kind of game that I want to recommend for those looking for something that challenges us while being endlessly diverting. Coming in next is Return of the Obra Dinn. A universal rule for detective games is if you can make a player feel like a real detective, the rest will just simply fall into place. Return of the Obra Dinn is a very different kind of detective game. It might look like a strange one to recommend, but as far as compelling murder mysteries go, there's nothing like it. As the story goes, the Obra Dinn is a missing ship that sails back into port with an entire crew deemed missing or dead. Considered the ultimate lost cause, you play as an insurance adjuster tasked with attempting to retrace the steps of every member on board, from the captain to the chef to the deckhand, all in the hope of concluding how one from a crew of 60 met their ends. Without any witnesses, your only advantage is a magical stopwatch that allows you to see a frozen renditions, along with the final audio moments of where each person died. Your true goal is to piece together the entire story of the Obra Dinn. Luckily, there really are not 60 separate stories here. Each character enriches one of the dozen or so crucial moments that cover the ship's tragic timeline. Do players simply sort them all into one cohesive narrative? It's a compelling task. The game asks for your own initiative to solve the potentially solvable mystery. If there's a single praise to give Obra Dinn, it's a game that makes the player feel like a real detective. And the puzzle here is definitely worth the effort. Next up, we have Hades. It may be the most replayed game amongst those adventurous enough to discover this great variety of indie titles. Hades is the game that keeps on giving what is essentially a roguelike dungeon looter with an irresistible amount of fun. Hades puts you in control of the son of Hades, Zagreus, in an attempt to escape the underworld by battling through a series of increasingly difficult dungeons. Each dungeon represents one major section of the guide to the underworld, and defeating the main boss at the end of each one unlocks the next section until you defeat the god of death at the end. If that sounds like a short game, well, then you're wrong, because Hades is meant to be played through over and over and over again. Its goal is to find the right combination of upgrades and weaponry. With each notable pass through, Zagreus gets more and more powerful. Each power-up that lasts past the number of deaths it takes to essentially find a golden path of the correct abilities, be it a punching weapon that restores health, or a particular attack, or a defensive ability that works perfectly to someone's playstyle. The game becomes more about taking risks the more you play it, and for those looking to simply satisfy a single run while neglecting the later half, it's undoubtedly one jackpot of a game that you'll lose yourself within only a single play. Next on the list, we have Hollow Knight. The best descriptions of Hollow Knight all involve the same statement. It's the 2D Dark Souls. To be clear, you're playing as a bug-shaped knight clashing through another 2D Metroidvania with very little sense of direction. This is an easy game to immediately get lost within. Hollow Knight may look simple, it may play simply, but it's really a very bad game if you're someone who likes your hands held. While Hollow Knight may look cozy on the surface, it's one of those rare few golden game designs that takes an easy objective and then proceeds to make a harsh challenge for even the most seasoned player. Every time you think you're up for the challenge, the difficulty spikes. It introduces new things until you eventually reach a plateau. It's a cycle that keeps repeating. For those who do stick around, they're rewarded with stunning artistic visuals, with intricately designed maps packed to the brim with personality to meeting a memorable cast of characters and a well-layered soundtrack that helps push the mysterious eeriness of a rotting world through its peak. There's a reason Hollow Knight is considered one of the best indies. It sacrifices nothing to deliver one of the greatest examples of what a painfully good 2D Metroidvania should be. Next up, we have Inside. Featuring absolutely no spoken dialogue or narration, what we have here is an environmental platformer, meaning its main game mechanics are working out how to use the world around you to traverse from point A to B to progress the plot along the way. Using absolutely no direct or traditional way of telling the story, Inside does an amazing job at moving from one layer of this seemingly dystopian world to the next. From forests to government complexes to labs to industrial cities, maybe even to railways. It's a game that I don't want to spoil too much about because one of the pure joys of it is absolutely not knowing what kind of setting you're going to be placed in next. It all starts off the same way, with you controlling a boy who is running away from search parties clad in dark clothing with flashlights. Yet through the environmental storytelling of its world, each scenario reveals something deeper about the world you discover. What you are running away from to maybe why you start out as this marginal character running away in the first place. There's a question for every layer explored within this decaying environment who's presented with truly surreal challenges that escalate beyond any simple line of descriptions. Even the ending presents a final conclusion that you're bound to think about for a long while after an initial playthrough. It's another short game but worthy of multiple playthroughs as you attempt to decipher its true meaning. Next up, we have Road 96. This is another narratively led game presented in an utterly unique way. Road 96 plays out in the first person as a series of semi-randomized challenges, all set in the country of Petria during a climate of civil unrest. You play as a variety of local teens attempting to negotiate and trek the distance from their hometown to the border of the country, therefore escaping a tyrannical government. During explorations from your hometown, interacting with other characters to characters, even on the road or traversing the world via public transport, hitchhiking, or even pairing up with others on their own personal journeys, you reach a series of goals that move the story along in an attempt to reach the current chapter's destination. Playing the game involves world exploration, talking to strangers, uncovering clues, and exposing both sides of a two-way civil war. Despite its serious subject matter, Road 96 never leans too heavily into strict politics or governmental finger-pointing. It's a game that can often follow serious or gritty moments with humour, with absurdity like zany characters to genuine goofy moments, to realistic satire watching as your fellow companions' storylines unravel as you'll learn that everyone has their own reasons for their actions. Politics aside, Road 96 is a fun, fast-paced and absurd narrative game about society and its unpredictable future, depending upon the nature of your choices. Coming in next, I'm sure you've probably heard of this one, but it is Firewatch, known as one of the major pillars of the so-called walking simulator genre. It's also one of those rare games pulled straight up from a regular conversation. National Forest in Wyoming is the setting, and the year is 1989. You take control of Henry, a regular guy looking for an easy, quiet summer gig in a scenic setting. He takes a job as a fire lookout, posted in a national park for the summer, and his only means of contact is a person called Delilah, the boss. As Henry explores the national park, tending to regular everyday problems, he begins to pick up on a strange eavesdropping presence, leading Henry and Delilah to believe that something's not quite right in that forest. The park is presented as a simple open world, yet there's plenty to see and do. The undeniably gorgeous world may tempt players to divert their attention from the main task to explore more, and to no surprise, it's always a welcoming task. The unfolding mystery and the relationships between Henry and Delilah really are the driving force through the game. It's a compelling mystery of a game that engages sensibility at every step. A beautifully crafted accomplishment of a game that should definitely be recommended. Next up, this is one of the games that I really consider timeless. It's Journey. When we think artsy games, the kind that don't involve direct gameplay or action-oriented mechanics, maybe even simple ones with a clear beginning, middle, and an end, Journey is always the game that comes to mind as a shining example among the rest. As the player, you take control of a traveller whose only goal is to reach a peak of a nearby mountain. Of course, the journey there is not so simple. Myriad forms of storytelling, a puzzle, a little bit of platforming, and smart, innovative cooperative play will take form during a string of visually stunning set pieces as the player traverses through now iconic deserts, caverns, ancient ruins, and even snowy slopes to ultimately reach a summit to the finale. The game is structured around the player's own pace. There's no violence, there's no failure, no real threat to the player. The only way to enjoy this game is to simply continue exploring until it ends. As simple as it may sound, it's nothing short of a sheer imagination and visual eye candy. What makes it even better is the adaptive cooperation, which means at a random point within a playthrough, another traveller may join the adventure, only it's not another NPC. For all intents and purposes, every wandering character that you come across in your travels is another real player playing their own version of the game. An innovative way of cooperative play that cleverly makes this essentially single-player game a shared connection based on its pure direction. If you haven't played this yet, you better be checking it out now. Because again, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience that high-budget games can't really offer. So those are the top must-have indie games that you should play before anything in 2026. I know a lot of promising indies are on the horizon, but again, I want you to experience the majesty of the past years. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please do us a favor and hit that like button. And if you want more of this kind of video, make sure not to forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.